Long before AI had made them obsolete, the cities were on their way out. They had a good run. They had started at the intersection of trade routes during the First Age, the agricultural age. The first great cities started simply as places where goods were exchanged. Trade brought wealth, and wealth brought culture and architecture and the arts. In the Second Age, the industrial era, centralization was the key to manufacturing. People fled the farms for the cities, and steam and coal began to transform the world. In the West, life expectancy dipped for a few generations, then skyrocketed. Personal wealth grew generation after generation, and modern conveniences soon became available for just about everyone. Humanity was well into the Third Age, the information age, before people realized that no one needed centralized factories or office buildings anymore. From that point forward, all that kept a city alive was its culture. Take away the culture that built the city to begin with, then it's all over. If it was no longer safe to be on the streets at night, if the people that built the cities were told that those cities no longer belonged to them, and if the identity, morals, philosophy, and customs of their citizens were mocked, degraded, and demonized, then the cities no longer had a future other than being abandoned. And that's exactly what happened. People just left. The great American cities died not with a bang, but with a whimper. They ended not in fire, but in ice. With one exception. And that exception was Los Angeles. Like all of the other progressively governed, corrupt, incompetent metropolitan areas, the City of Angels died by its own hand. In 2020, riots broke out throughout the city and the nation. Entire business districts were burned to the ground, and it became clear right away that the city officials elected to protect the people of Los Angeles from assault, vandalism, looting, and arson were in fact on the side of the criminals, and not only did nothing to stop the destruction, but openly cheered them on from the sidelines. 5 years later, in 2025, that same incompetence, graft, and criminal neglect burned out the scenic heart of LA, Pacific Palisades, Malibu. That's when the death spiral really began. The people who lost their homes in the fires of 2025 couldn't even receive the permits needed to clear their own land for 7 or 8 years. So most of them simply did what so many others had been doing for the last decade. They simply left. City revenues declined. The response was to raise taxes even higher to make up for the shortfall. More people left. It's not that the city officials didn't know what they were doing. As long as they got their 6-figure salaries and pensions, they just didn't care. By 2030, life in Los Angeles had become so chaotic, so lawless, so uncivilized, and so unbearable that soon everyone who could leave the dying city had left it. Places that used to be nice neighborhoods became dangerous. Places that used to be dangerous became deadly. Every year, more and more buildings were abandoned by their owners, but that doesn't mean they were deserted. On the contrary, now anyone in the world could live in an LA high-rise. All you had to do was get there. By 2040, virtually all that remained were the drug addicts, the mentally deranged, the homeless, and the desperate. And of course, those who preyed upon them. These poor lost souls, who had once slept under newspapers on street benches, found themselves in possession of entire floors of once prime office space. Sometimes the power was still on, sometimes not. Same for the plumbing. But by then that was no problem. When the garbage, the needles, and the human excrement got bad enough, you simply moved to a new floor. Newsoming, they called it. And then, around 4 in the afternoon, on Tuesday, September 29th, 2043, all of the misery, all of the neglect, all of the entitlement and the cruelty and the sheer murderous rage finally broke out of the cage it had built for itself and took revenge on the culture that they so despised and which had so enthusiastically hated them in return. It was time to burn the entire city to the ground. So that's what they did. The fires burned for 11 days. No effort was made to put them out. No one will ever know how many people died in the Great LA Fire. The official number given was in the neighborhood of 11,600. The real number was no lower than 40,000 dead, and probably twice that. Virtually none of the bodies were identified, since no one had known who they were before the fire started. That's how Los Angeles died. New York had its own story. So did Chicago. And Denver. Philadelphia. Las Vegas. Miami. Atlanta. San Francisco. Gone now. All gone. But of course, this is just science fiction.